everyone please take their seats here so we can resume our meeting? Okay, Mr. Cora, do you remember what your other 24 questions?
It doesn't matter, no, we can go on from here. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Just to follow up what my last sentence, what I was getting at is it allows you to pull out subcontracts within bigger work. So if we're bidding out a street reconstruction project that's $800,000 and there's a stump grinding portion of it that's done locally, but that's it. General contractors from somewhere, but they included a local stump grinder, you can pull that part out and apply the preferences there. So there's substantial work in the tens of thousands that we do when it comes to concrete, excavation, forestry, things like that. And a lot of trades, plumbing, mechanical, electrical.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from anyone? Let's move on to the next item of discussion then, and that is small cell legislation. And that has to do with 5G phone service. Mr. Zeller, would you like to enlighten us on that?
Oh, gosh. Okay, so 5G is much more powerful, much shorter range. And so, as cell towers became prevalent, the state, and many states did this, took the position that they can't place this under local control, because no one's gonna want the cell towers, but everyone needs them.
Just a minute, Mr. Zell.
Yeah.
Let me ask, how many of you are aware of a cell tower? Anybody not know what they look like? Okay, we all know what they are. We got one right across the street here by the fire station. We got another one on Elms Road. We got one in the back of the park. We got several, 2 or 3 on city land that we're getting money for. Now there's a suggestion they want to do it different.
Yeah, so 5G. We regulated those under the Metro Telecommunications Act, which basically means we don't have zoning control completely. They can put them where they want, and it's up to us to have the burden of proof to indicate why they couldn't use a site that they wanted to. And that was so that if you go into an area like Southeast Michigan, you don't have every city saying, we don't want them, but we need them, so what do you do? So they're everywhere. And that preempts zoning, and we do have zoning regulations that apply, but it's very limited, and it really is just there to make us feel good. Ultimately, the state legislation controlled that. Round 2 is these cell towers now aren't going to be towers in the sense that we recognize them. They're going to be much more prevalent, much smaller, much lower. And so the idea is lower, 20 to 40 feet.
Okay.
So if you look at how wireless networks now exist in cities that are big, or even office towers, they have repeaters everywhere. They're installing them in the ceiling tiles, so you get 4G in the middle of Cobo Hall, or whatever what is it called? It doesn't matter. Big buildings, right? And so they're actually, anybody notice their signal's better at Myron?
Oh, yeah.
They've got a repeater on their roof. God, you didn't even know. We approved it administratively because you can't see it. But that's how they create 4G, not Wi-Fi, but 4G signals within enclosed spaces or dense places. You see stadiums do this too. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. 5G. All those towers could probably go away because they're not going to work. 5G requires to be within, I don't know, 1,000 feet. I don't know this. It's technical stuff that I'm not versed on, so out of my wheelhouse, but I will say it's shorter. And so they're looking at having a lot of neighborhood tower construction. And so the thought is, well, they're going to stop regulating this as site-selected tower construction, like where they'd come and they'd ask somebody, can we have a land lease on private property or public, and we're going to build this tower and it's 180 feet tall. Instead, they said, why don't we just use the existing right-of-ways under all the state legislation that controls right-of-ways and put all these existing repeaters and towers on existing poles, or create poles that are just a bit taller.
Like telephone poles.
Telephone poles that might be 40 feet tall that show up on the corner of
What's a regular telephone pole? Do we know how tall is that?
Usually 60 foot
60 for transmission.
for transmission lines, about 30 foot for regular ones.
So the ones down the road are about 30?
Yeah, about 30 foot, about 30.
And so truly, this could be a really good thing, it's benign in most of our lives. Like Miller Road, you could probably put these little cell tower things on, but really, they look like cable boxes. So if you see the gray cable boxes out there, it's just a piece of infrastructure that sits on the tower that's allowed to be there because that cable company has a franchise agreement in whatever city they're in. So they can go up and down the right-of-ways and do whatever they want, within reason, and place their wires and their poles to support the wires. And so the idea is, well, shoot, Verizon's already got permission to put poles up in the right-of-way and run wires. Well, why don't we just give them permission to put boxes on? It actually makes a lot of sense. The problem is, they're a bit more noticeable in some areas where they think, well, we gotta go up 50 feet in this neighborhood and we can service all, let's say, the village, if we put a 50-foot tower by Sun Green at Oakview and Housing. And the city can't do anything about it because we've got a right-of-way franchise with them. And so all the cities and the groups that represent them down in Lansing balked at this. And that's basically what we're looking at here. It's the policy statement of what this legislation is going to cause, and the arguments for it and the arguments against it. Sorry. So, there's been an ordinance crafted that has existing franchise provisions in it and a sample agreement that exists for another municipality that we could adopt in the meantime with the idea that this could help us through grandfathering and controls. So we still maintain a bit more scrutiny level over our right-of-ways, or towers that go out of the right-of-ways and we fall back under zoning. Does this distinction make sense? Okay, so big towers, private land use, zoning, new towers, all in the right-of-way. Probably a good idea, but it can still impact how we do business, because we obviously already have fits with consumers' energy and some of the other poles that exist in the right-of-ways. So the idea is, they don't know a lot about how this final legislation will look, but the groups are encouraging municipalities to look at drafting and putting ordinances in the books that would allow for the franchising agreements that you see included in the packet. Do you have anything to add?
No, I can answer questions, but I think that's a fair description.
So we can look to proceed with an ordinance that gives us this leverage.
I don't understand what our leverage is when you say we're grandfathered in. What do we hope to accomplish by doing that? Because it's gonna happen whether we want it to or not.
It will, and that's what the lobbyists are advocating on behalf of the cities. And there's a couple watchdog groups that do this, say it may not matter, but the idea is groups that have this ability to create the franchising ordinance language, to be able to do so afterwards, only if they had it before the state legislation went into effect. So if we don't do it before the state legislation takes effect, and it could change. Again, this is like precaution, it may or may not help you, but do this, and you probably will be better off when it's done. So it is that vague, and
What's
that
gonna help us do? I don't understand what we're accomplished by.
it'll allow us to create franchise agreements that can put reasonable restrictions on these. So we could say, we're gonna limit you to existing poles at 30-foot height. We're not gonna allow you to put a 50-foot pole in a residential neighborhood.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I could, the proposed legislation, the fear is it's going to take away local control. It's going to prevent locals from regulating this new technology and the resulting infrastructure. So the idea, much like the zoning ordinance, is that if you were to pass an ordinance now before the statute takes effect, then you'll be grandfathered in, and you'll retain the control that you'll lose if the legislation passes. And as Adam pointed out, this is no certainty. This isn't a, if you do this, you'll absolutely retain the control. The idea being, this is the best thing for you to do to have that argument later on. If you do nothing, you're probably going to lose all control and have no leverage to argue otherwise.
But
So,
Mr. Gilman, do you really think that it's gonna make that much difference?
I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know. everything dealing with telecommunications over the years, they've taken away local control. We've seen that going back to, Metro telecommunications. So, the pessimist in me says, no, the state is gonna say, we're gonna take it away from the city. But to the extent you can do anything to control your own destiny, I think this is it.
Okay.
So if we do it, it's not gonna hurt us.
Right, I understand that.
But it.
I don't want you to spend a lot of time on something that probably is gonna be fruitless.
It's pre-written. I mean,
Well-
it'll be easy to adapt to our needs.
Mr. Farmer?
To my understanding, we had the ability to, I had the ability to sit through a session on this at a conference a year ago. And it was for a contractor who is working on implementing this 5G system. And they want this to happen. So if we're able to take an attempt to prevent a 50-foot pole in the middle of the village, I think these people would be able to instead put more cable boxes in the village rather than a tall pole with less resistance getting to the houses. And so doing this would be an attempt at.
We've got to find balance. Say this works and we can control it, we still have to be reasonable. I mean, 5G is something everyone's going to want, possibly need. And right now, there's some communities that basically make every single one of these boxes, I'll call them, go through a zoning site plan review process. And that's incredibly arduous and less predictable and expensive and time consuming. And so if you create those kind of barriers, you ultimately might be avoiding very little change in your community, but denying everyone access to the next wave of technology. But on the reverse, as Mr. Gilner said, we've seen so many regulatory controls stripped from municipalities that you can end up with some pretty gross stuff in neighborhoods that just don't want it. And we might not have to otherwise deal with it if there's just a reasonable give and take. Like, hey, we want this stuff, we'll approve it, we've got reasonable regulations, but as Mr. Farmer said, instead of one big 60-foot pole somewhere that might not be desirable, wherever that could be, why don't you create, some smaller ones or something? The minutia of how it's implemented. So, Mr. Gilner's probably right, we could do this and it doesn't help us, but on the outside chance, 1 in 10, the communities that do this have a lot more control afterwards. I'd hate to not participate only to find out that it would have helped.
I'm just trying to be the antagonist.
You're good at it.
You okay?
You're good at it.
And I don't want people to be disappointed because it didn't work, but it's not gonna hurt us, as you stated earlier, it's not gonna hurt us to do that. But I don't think we should have our hopes up that we're gonna have total control over it.
No, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
That's not gonna happen. I don't want anybody thinking that, if that's the way it sounds.
Anyone else on this side? All right. That was just a discussion item. Nothing's on the table tonight about this.
I want to pass next week.
You'll have a chance.
I know, you were looking for something important to go on the agenda for next week.
Something, anything.
Our next thing is the Metro PD Police Department interlocal agreement. The discussion item. And Chief is here, would you like to lead the discussion on that, sir? Or would you like to pass it off to Adam?
Option B.
So the interlocal agreement is the instrument that enables the function of the Metro Police Authority of Genesee County. It's between Mundy Township Board and the City of Swartz Creek City Council. Is not controlled by the Metro PD Board. Okay, so it's the same as the interlocal agreement between Swartz Creek and Clayton for the fire department. They're similar but different instruments, and it's been understood that after an experience of a couple of years, we'd probably revisit that and make updates, both for practical reasons or whatever, other policy initiatives we might want to pursue. And so there's two examples of items that could be changed in the interlocal agreement right now, and what I want to update you on is what those sort of are, and then the process we have moving forward. And so, first one is a formalization of something we're already doing, recommended by the Council of Metro Police, is that we put in the interlocal agreement between Swartz Creek and Mundy, exact terms and conditions under which they're overseeing the parking violations bureau. So we're already doing that. It's being conducted underneath resolution by council and the existing ordinance. It's great, but it should be formalized for posterity's sake, put in the agreement, and I agree. The other one is there's some thought from the Mundy side that they might want to look at the different powers that the municipalities retain through the interlocal agreement, and the Metro Board, and then the staff of Metro Police. And so that's something that I think one of their trustees might be interested in just visiting. And their board isn't sure how to approach it without consulting members of the city council from this side, staff members of both municipalities, and at some point I'm sure Metro PD as well. And so I bring that up only to say that there's desire to get communications going between city council and Mundy Township Board to just look at the interlocal agreement and create a list of things to do, if anything. Similar to the initiative we talked about with Clayton and Swartz Creek, which I think will still be pushing that forward at some point. So there's nothing pressing that needs to be done right away, but there is an understanding that there's some things we can improve, there's some things we should formalize. It sounds like they've got some ideas or initiatives, I'm sure we would too, if we comb through that agreement. And so they reached out to me a week or two ago and indicated they just wanted to get a few people from each side together and begin looking at it. And so I just put that out there to see if there's any questions about the drafts that have been included, to let council know that that's something we'll be working on. And if there's any thoughts about it, let us know. Let me know. Let the chairman of Metro Board know, Mr. Porak, and we can make sure that there's just a understanding that's being worked on, the ability to communicate through the process, and then understanding that we'll come back sometime January, February with some ideas. Does this make sense?
Somewhat.
Somewhat. It's time to update the interlocal agreement.
There is also a proposal to take away some of the authority of the police chief and give it to the board to hire and to hire different people within the police department and people that work for the police department, and have a board responsible for those decisions rather than a police chief. And I think that's coming up Wednesday on the agenda. Is that correct?
Is what coming up on the agenda?
Changing the agreement.
No. And that's part of why I included that in the past. That's just, I think that's the ideas of one individual. And that's, at that point, I think that's when Township Board said, let's get together with Swartz Creek and talk about these and make sure we're on the same page with how we want to approach who does what. And so at this point, there's nothing any group's pushing to make those changes. And again, those changes you speak of would have to be made at council and Township Board collectively.
Right.
So Wednesday, I think, is prosecution services selection.
I believe that's right.
Can I jump
Yes,
in?
go ahead.
At the inception of the interlocal agreement, we said that we would, after 2 or 3 years, we would sit down and go over it, see what was working, what needed to be moved around a little bit or whatever, and that's what we're talking about. There is a proposal from the township to perhaps take some power away from the board, from the police chief, and give it more power to the board. That's one of their proposals. That's one of the things that we're going to be discussed in, hopefully, like in January, February, get together.
Oh, but sooner than that.
Well, whatever.
Yeah.
But anytime soon. But that's something that was always scheduled, that was going to happen, and that's just come to fruition now. So, so if you have any concerns or things that you'd like to see changed, then now's the time to do it. But we'll see where it goes, and because the municipality of Swartz Creek and Mundy Township actually control that. I mean, we can't change something without their okay. That's the way it was set up, and that's the way it will be until we actually have more members and whatever down the road. But so that's what he's looking at, and that's what they're some people from Mundy Township wanted to do it sooner than later. And so that's where we're at.
Speaking of the police authority, I was going over some figures relating to our meeting on Wednesday and noticed that while we have just, I believe we've approved or are going to approve a new contract with the police officers union, giving a raise of 1%?
1.5.
1.5%, but also looked at the budget goes down 2%, so good. Saving us money while also giving a small raise to the officers. Those two things usually don't go together. One of the reasons that we entered into this with the township is that we could jointly save some money. It's looking like that's beginning to happen. So we're accomplishing what we hope to by setting up the police authority. Sure.
Question. There is, as of today, is there any news on the home front on anybody who are seriously considered joining the Genesee County Metropolitan Police Authority?
No.
Okay.
I'll second. There's a lot of interest in it, even outside of our communities, our local communities, but it's gonna happen.
Sure.
Especially when they see some of these figures that come out and say, hey, you folks can do it, you know, in a constructive way and even save money, which, you know, we wanted, that was our goal. Sometimes you looked at it and said, I hope we can get there, but we did, so, it's gonna be good.
Chief Page.
Yes, I just mentioned, when it comes time to contemplate any changes in your local, as I reminded the Monday board a couple weeks ago, don't forget that the interlocal defines the structure of the police authority, but we are guided by an entire binder full of policies that both the council and the board approved that guides our day-to-day operations. So the interlocal doesn't tell you the whole story. So when you do look at that, make sure you consider it to remind yourself of what policies exist that guide our day-to-day operations.
Thank you. Anyone else? Comments? You're on the board too?
We're quiet on this end. We don't make you go overtime.
And overtime was too much last year, but it's gonna be cut this year, so, right?
Mr. Forrest, there's no reason dragging out the meeting. Your wife is here, so, you know.
What's that supposed to mean?
What's that supposed to mean?
I mean, you're keeping an eye on him already. Next item is the annual Christmas parade permit, and Mr. Forrest did double duty as we began tonight with the acceptance of the minutes. Mr. Kramer, would you read the motion to approve the parade permit for the Christmas parade?
Okay. Whereas the city of Swartz Creek issues street closure permits for the purpose of holding public events from time to time. And whereas the Swartz Creek Area Firefighters Association has submitted application for such a street closure for the purposes of hosting an annual Christmas parade in downtown Swartz Creek. And whereas the chief of police finds the application satisfactory and the city council finds the time, place, and manner of the parade to be conducted to the health, safety, and welfare of the community. Now therefore be it resolved that the city of Swartz Creek accepts the chief of police recommendation and approve the Swartz Creek Area Firefighters Association's street usage application to hold an annual Christmas parade on Saturday, December 1st, 2018, from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Route, stipulations, and conditions as set forth in the application packet, a copy of which is attached here, under the direction and control of the Office of the Chief of Police.
Thank you.
Second.
There is a second. How many years have we been doing this parade here?
34.
34 years, everybody's familiar with it. Any speaking to the application for a permit? Yes, sir.
Is Mr. Plum the chairman of that?
Yes, sir, I am, for the final year.
Oh, whatever, you're not going nowhere, Mr. Plum.
I just heard a rumor that it was questionable, the judges that were picked for this year, so just.
You volunteered.
Just keep that in mind. For the record. What did that say? Question on the judge? Yeah.
All right. Any serious comments?
I understand, if I may, Mayor, I understand the route starts at the middle school and ends up in at the fire station.
It's always a great time and nice kickoff to Christmas season, except for the night before, you're gonna have the Christmas tree.
That's right, that's right.
So we got a 1-2 punch here in Swartz Creek. This week, isn't it?
Yes.
Friday and Saturday.
Yes.
Yeah, mark it on your calendar if you don't have it down yet. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Farmer,
Yes.
Gilbert,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Krieger,
Yes.
Pinkston,
Yes.
Horath,
Yes.
Kramer.
Yes.
That motion passes unanimously.
Well, that will be.
Meeting's open to the public again. You thought of anything else? You
We're gonna stay seated.
Oh, you're the spokesman, huh? All right.
Right, all about that. We're getting tired.
Lock or roll?
Oh, you really want me to go up there again?
No.
I don't think so.
You got somebody sit down.
The person in charge of the parade wants to say something.
Bob Plum, Swartz Creek Area Firefighters Association. I want to thank the council for. She might. I'd like to thank the council for all their support in the city. Thank you, Tom. And I'd like to invite everybody out, and I'm not gonna guarantee the weather.
Well, why don't you do it? Because then we're up there again.
Anyone else?
She's bad, sorry.
Oh, speak louder, I can't hear you.
We have, I forgot to say that we are announcing a Holly Berry baby Prince and Princess photo contest. Yes, did I say that right?
Voting.
Yes, you did.
Voting ends Wednesday, so if you have not voted yet, you can go to JT's, you can go to the Country Carriage Restaurant, you can go to the Draft. Maybe we'll go there now. Or you can go to.
Robinson's.
Yes, Farm Bureau. There's 4 places that you can vote, 1 dime, 1 vote, or you can stick $1 in there. All the votes, they get calculated for these little babies, they're very cute. And then the proceeds go to the March of Dimes. So that's very cool, and the babies are so cute.
Oh, they're
So
adorable.
if you can't make up your mind, just put a vote in all of them.
How many babes are in?
We have 5 Holly Berry babies, 3 girls, 2 boys, and the prince and princess, first prize, they get crowns, sash, winter sash. And then the second and third prizes, first, second, and third, trophies, second and third, how's it go again? I am tired. First, second, and third, they all get trophies and gift bags.
Right.
And, oh yeah, and then they get to go to the fire station, and we announce them there. That's first prize.
Right.
And first prize goes to hometown days. And they're gonna be at Feather and Fin, and they get announced there as well, so,
We'll have to set up.
yeah, yeah. They are full of kids. So, go vote, Wednesday's last day.
Do you have any rules like the parents can't come stick a $100 bill in?
Oh, they sure can. It's a good cause. Thank you. Last time.
Thank you. And thanks,
We just love our city council meetings. We don't come enough.
Yes, we do.
Well, maybe we do.
Someone else.
We're done.
As usual, Mrs. Abrams is hosting a Christmas party this year. I'm not gonna say where or when, but thank you so much for that.
The whole city.
And that's always one of the highlights of the season. I believe that we're about ready to close this portion of the meeting. If no one else has anything to share with us, we'll go on to things that council members would like to say. Starting with Mr. Forrest, this end.
I had something, but I just crossed it out, so I have nothing, thank you.
Took him off guard, man.
Mr. Kramer, have you anything?
Yeah, just a question instead of a comment. We have a videographer in the back room. Could you identify yourself?
My name is John Wilson, and I run a website, and it's a All Points TV. It's on YouTube, and they can see the past shows on there. Not past shows, but your past meetings.
Yes.
And we have all kinds of shows on there about different, different topics, different hosts. It's located in Flint, but it's just, for a public transparency, I'm like, that's concerned a lot of people. I'd like to go and cover as many city council and town and village council meetings and stuff, so people who can't attend the meetings can have access to the information, or, the need to know basis kind of stuff. So anyway, that's what I'm here for. Mr. Wilson, yeah.
Mr. Wilson, you've been here and you've been to various meetings that we've had here in Swartz Creek City Council. And my question was, well, here's where my comment comes in. Our council has unity. You have covered other city councils here in the community. The unity's not there.
Right.
And I'd like to say I'm grateful for that unity that we have in our community.
It's very encouraging, because I'm primarily in Flint, so I mean, it's like, as you've probably seen in the press, it can get pretty raucous there in Flint City. I mean, when you have city council members being hauled away by the police and lawsuits within it and all that, it's very discouraging to see that in the city government. And you guys should take a lot of pride in having a more congenial atmosphere. I commend that, so.
Do you, take snippets out
I'm
of
sure
it?
we're excited.
What do you say?
This week and the upcoming times.
I leave it pretty much all it is.
3 meetings in a row,
Yeah.
And a fantastic parade.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a good time, and wonderful reindeer. That was a very good highlight of last year's event.
They'll be back.
Do you know if the art association will be open for that night?
No, they're having their event the next day, on Saturday, from 3 to 4, just before the parade. So they're gonna have events going on then in the parking lot. So they'll be open then.
But we are selling tickets
Oh,
for
Is
the,
that what you're asking, is
for
about
the art that is done by.
Peggy Abrams Santa, is that what you're asking about, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have tickets.
We're not selling them, we're taking
offering
donations.
them
Oh, I'm sorry,
For
taking
donations, yes. Yeah.
Somatic.
Fantastic, thank you guys.
Yeah. So the drawing for that is gonna be at the fire
Right.
station. So.
You don't need to be present, do you?
No. I wasn't taking.
I think I got some for that. That's why,
Yeah, you
did I get some from you?
donated,
I
yes.
donated.
You donated.
Oh, of course.
Good, because Peggy Abrams has some good Christmas art.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Tell her it looks just like Tom's cake. Say that to her when she's within striking distance.
No, that's my aunt.
Mrs. Hicks.
Well, I just want to remind everybody, we've got two other events that happen in the city. One is holiday decorating for the businesses, so we'll be judging that. The Women's Club does that, and we'll be having our gathering December 12th to go on our route to check those out. So if you're a business in the area, not just downtown, then we'll be trying to hit all of you. If you want to make sure we see you, then just let me know. Send us an email, and so we'll make sure we include you in our, we have a good time and end up at Hank and Don's. So it's a good
There
time.
they drink pop.
There you go. And also the park board is doing the residential again, and so we'll be doing that. And what's the final date, Adam? I keep forgetting, December,
Oh,
it's somewhere. Anyway, you don't have to enter that. Again, we've got 3 people from park board that will go around, and they'll put a sign in your yard, and you get a picture in the paper and a certificate, and we just pick our favorites. So if you decorate your house, again, we'll be going around and just pick our favorites. There's 3 of us. So that's all.
Mr. Gilbert.
Yes, I'd like to say something about that small cell legislation.
You're worried that they're gonna put one of those things on each of the poles in your front yard, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, I hope before they put one up, they take the other and move it.
Yeah.
Comcast.
The man unfortunately has 2 telephone poles in his front yard next to each other, and they would take the first one down before they put the second one in. Or afterwards.
And they've been there for like 6, 7 years.
It'll look like a court packet on that.
Anyway, that's all I got.
Dr. Pinkston.
I have a comment to make about some of the downsides of legalizing marijuana that we didn't discuss before, because we probably didn't know about it. This community was great in raising money for Ike, 2 Roscoe's, Women's Club, several members of the council. We had fundraisers. It's been a great program. Now the communities have legalized marijuana. These dogs have been trained to sniff marijuana. Cop stops a car on Mill Road with a flat tire. Roscoe starts jumping up and down. Reason to search. Search the car. The guy's got a bottle of Vicodin, and he's got 3 automatic weapons in the car, plus the marijuana. They arrest him. Now they're going to get thrown out of court because the dog, the lawyer, the first thing he'll say, well, the only reason they stopped the car or searched it was because the dog smelled marijuana. So now these dogs are probably going to have to be early retired and replaced. And that is sad, really sad that, you know, everybody was so hot to pass the marijuana law, but man, those dogs have been great about keeping crime out of this town, because people know we've got those dogs and they don't want to come into town with drugs. Now we're gonna have to start all over again. And it's a sad day. I didn't know Matt knew about it, but apparently he's aware of it too.
The dogs aren't trained to sniff drug specific, they're trained to sniff drugs. So the handler doesn't know if it's heroin or marijuana. So because marijuana is legalized, it creates a problem for the handlers. It creates a problem for our public officer. They still are good tracking dogs, legalized for tracking. Building searches.
So you'll still use them for tracking and other
Yes.
things?
but not drugs and, like we do at the hot.
That hampers our operations a bit.
So does that mean like, if we were to have to replace them, the training they don't get trained for marijuana, they still get trained for other drugs?
No,
What's the alternative?
the dogs alert on the odor of narcotics. They don't, so a handler doesn't know if it's marijuana or heroin or any other narcotic they made, cocaine, they don't know. Because marijuana is legalized, it creates a problem, just as Dr. Pinkston described. So you may think you have probable cause to search a vehicle, get guns and other drugs, but marijuana's present in your car, it's gonna get tossed.
But at least you got those drugs and those guns off the road, right? Can't get them back.
Well, yeah, then you get to illegal search situations, but yeah, I see your point. But we'll still utilize it for tracking and building searches, but the capabilities that we're using them for are vastly diminished.
And the handlers, those aren't just dogs, those are the partners, you know, and the cost was $50,000 a piece for those dogs. I mean, that's substantial, let alone the loss of your partner, that they're gonna have to replace them somewhere. Maybe not tomorrow or the next day, but it's in the near future that we'll have to start all over, raising money again for a new canine
So are
or
they
two.
changing the training now for new dogs?
This is very new, so
Yeah.
this is all new.
That's it.
All right, thank you. Just read this last week an article related to drugs in the United States on that topic, and how several police departments, officers had to use Narcan to save their own lives when they're exposed to fentanyl, which is, there's so much of that smuggled into our country from Mexico that it could kill every last person in the United States if everybody got a dose of that. So it's overwhelming, the amount of that, and it's some of the officers just making routine traffic stop were exposed to it, and they would have died if they didn't have the antidote with them in their car at the moment that they could treat themselves, much less treating other people. So we want to make sure that they're all aware of that and have it ready to save their own life if need be. And enough for the bad news. I wish everyone a very Merry Christmas.
We're done.
And kicking it off this weekend, Friday and Saturday. Motion, you made a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.